you for hanging in here and for staying so late this evening to hear all the speakers. And I am so grateful to have the opportunity to speak to you this evening. I am running for Senate District 10 to bring back common sense decision making. To reach my hand across the aisle and be collaborative so that we can make good decisions that work for all people. And to bring compassion back to our state Senate. Three things that have been sorely lacking over the last many years in our state legislature is we've seen our government become more and more tribal and more divided. It's clear that it is time for a new thought process. We've been driven by this narrow-focused ideology that has had our legislature focused on things like bathrooms and vouchers and immigration laws that are not safe for our country, that are not safe for our state. And so I'm here to tell you that I am running to bring that common sense, good judgment back to governance. I've spent 10 years as a school board trustee down at Burleson ISD. 30% of Burleson ISD belongs in Senate District 10. There are 16 pieces of 16 school districts that live in Senate District 10 and 9 charter schools. Education has been a main focus of mine for a very long time now. On top of the 10 years that I've spent as a school board trustee, I've spent 18 years as a trustee for Texas Wesleyan University, working to churn out great teachers for school districts all over my Senate seat and all over the state of Texas. And I'm very proud of the work that we've done there. In the years since I've been a school board trustee, I've also been working on what we call the Burleson Opportunity Fund, a program that I'm extremely proud of. We brought a college to Burleson and we created an opportunity fund to raise scholarship dollars so that we could tell every student that walked into a classroom at a Burleson school, honey, you get to go to college. If you want to go to college, you get to go to college because we're going to raise enough money to pay your tuition and make sure that you get to enter college as a freshman, and then if you work hard at it, we'll pay your second year of tuition. Over the course of 10 years, we've paid tuition for over 1,500 students to go to college. And in the last 2 years, we've created a program called Burleson Works, and we've expanded that to include workforce technical training, career training, to make sure that our students are prepared for great jobs at the end of their training that exist right there in the community where we live. And folks, I believe those are programs that we can take to other cities all over the state of Texas, and that for certain we can take them to all cities all over my district, District 10. I want to tell you that I believe that education is the single greatest socioeconomic elevator ever devised by man. And I believe that our focus in Austin should be placed on making sure that we pay for a quality education, that we continue to fund higher education. And so I want to tell you all today that we have to get focused on what's happening in Austin. And by that, I mean, get on the web, make sure that you understand how your legislators are voting. That's pretty simple. You've watched a whole group of candidates parade across this floor tonight who are up against incumbents that have voting records. And it's easy for you to find out how those voting records apply to issues that are important to you, and in particular, the issues that are important to our youngest little citizens. And I can tell you, folks, it's not a record that you're going to be terribly proud of. My mom was a basketball teacher and a public school teacher my whole life growing up. I came from a hard-working family. My dad worked at Lockheed, my grandparents were hard workers, and they believed in public education. I was educated in a public school. My mother and dad were educated in public schools. My grandparents were educated in public schools. And now my grandchildren, my 7 little grandchildren, are being educated in public schools. I want to go to Austin to fight for our public schools. I want to fight to make sure that we get that funding piece exactly right. And in a minute, my friend Mike Collier is going to come up here and use his accountant brain and tell you how that works. But I can tell you in a practical way that over 10 years on a school board, during a time when the state cut our budget by $5.4 billion across the state, was not a fun exercise. And we saw things happen during that period of time that wasn't pretty. We saw our children crowded into classrooms with more children than you'd want to see in a classroom. We saw programs going away that we had hoped for our children. The career technology programs that were mandated by our state that were so important to the future of our high school kids. Things like our Firefighters Academy, our Culinary Arts program, our criminal justice programs, our logistics programs, our engineering programs had to go on hold while we waited for the state of Texas to get it right. And then we've heard lots of conversation this evening about high-stakes testing. And we don't get that right either. We spend a lot of time in Texas classrooms teaching to the test and stressing out our kids in ways that are not good for children, not good for families. And by the way, the state of Texas doesn't really give us a clear-cut path before we have to start trying to figure out how to teach to the test so that our kids will make great grades and our schools will have great ratings. And I don't know where Chris Tackett went, but I really would love to hug his neck. Because he's got some graphs and some charts out there that tell the tale in ways that words will never do it. When you look at his scatter graphs on the scores and on the schools that get rated A, and you compare that to funding and the schools that get the most money, you realize that there is a distinct correlation between money and high grades for school districts. And don't let anybody tell you any differently. And then I want to finish my comments and try to stay within a reasonable time frame by telling you that the story he told you up here this evening about Empower Texans is the absolute truth. The West Texas oil billionaires are in North Texas big time. And my race is particularly impacted by it. Mine and Steve's, and probably Gwen's, and Jeremy's are all impacted by that West Texas oil money, and not in a positive way. I want you to know that the Empower Texans have purchased the biggest media buy for my opponent that has ever been purchased in their history. They've given her over $250,000 to run her campaign, and then an additional $150,000 media buy on top of it. That's hard to fight. And the only way we can do that is by standing in rooms like this, talking to you about our efforts on behalf of families, our efforts on behalf of our children, and our efforts on behalf of making sure that we keep control of our municipalities as close to you as it can possibly get. So I hope that all of you will take a moment when you go home this evening and look up Chris's charts, because they're so interesting. I watch for them on Twitter all the time, and I'm not even a Twitter person. But I love his charts for the honesty that they bring to politics today. So do that, and then as soon as you get through with that, I want you to go to Beverly Powell TX, either on Twitter or on Facebook, and friend me. Our website is beverlypowell.com, and I'm so grateful for all of you being here this evening. Thank you, thank you. Thank you, Tom, for the Pastors for Kids and the great work that they do. Now it is my pleasure to introduce a fellow to you that I just met this evening in person, but I knew him well during the primary season as he was fighting hard to defeat our Lieutenant Governor, and that's Scott Myers.